Welcome back to Fox 5. It is 8:30 this morning. We are continuing to follow coverage of the bridge collapse, the Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore. We want to get back out to Jacqueline Matter, who's standing by right now with the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, to bring us up to speed on the latest. Jacqueline.
Yeah, good morning, Marissa. We are still here out in Baltimore where the Key Bridge collapsed yesterday. This morning, efforts now switching to a recovery mission. We've got Governor Wes Moore joining us here on Fox 5. Thanks for joining us. Let's first talk a little bit about the recovery effort this morning. The search and rescue effort suspended last night. Can you confirm with us any details about the dive team? I know yesterday evening you all had said that they were going to be in the water at 6 a.m., but we know the weather conditions, that plays a role in all of this, a low visibility. What can you tell us this morning?
I can tell you that the dive team is in the water right now as we speak. Okay. And these conditions, these are difficult conditions. We're talking about very frigid temperatures with high winds and extraordinary darkness and trying to navigate mangled metal. The work that these folks are doing on our behalf right now is absolutely remarkable, and they're doing it also with a compassion for these families who are just having a nightmare experience right now. So our heart goes out to these families as well.
Let's talk a little bit about that Mayday call. You said yesterday that the people who made that call and stopped the traffic as well here on the bridge, you called them heroes. Who made that call? Why was that call not relayed to those construction workers fully? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, when the call came in, really the heroic effort was of the first responders. The first responders were the ones who, once that Mayday call came in, were able to immediately start mobilizing, getting people off of the bridge, begin to alert the workers, and also making sure that they were stopping the flow of traffic that was coming. The heroic actions of those first responders, that saved countless lives because it kept cars from going over the bridge right before it collapsed. And so I'm still in awe of these first responders and the heroic actions that they showed.
Yeah, talk a little bit with us about the timing of this incident. Obviously, never a good time for a tragedy of this nature, but imagine if this would have been rush hour right here through Baltimore. Can you talk to us about how that impact could have been far different than what we're seeing?
Yeah, it's God's grace was watching over a measure of timing, but also truthfully, even when you think about that time of night, there's still a tremendous amount of traffic. There's still people who are going off to work, who are working a midnight shift. There's still people who are coming back from work after coming up and working late nights. And so even at that time of night, there's still a significant amount of traffic that took place over the Key Bridge, and so that's why the actions of the first responders was important, no matter what time of the day it was.
You talk about people who were working, these 6 construction workers and more that were out here. We know 2 of them, at least, survivors. You got a chance to speak with one of them that was released from the hospital, right? What did he have to tell you?
He was just praying and grateful. He spoke about a police officer who we saw was telling him, come off of the bridge. Yeah. And he spoke about how he was coming off of the bridge and literally he heard a rumbling and felt a rumbling. And when he turned around, he just saw the bridge collapse right behind him. So he knows he was steps away from falling into the water. So he was just very grateful for the quick responsiveness of those first responders. What
was that like emotion-wise to hear his recollection of what happened there yesterday? I mean, really, truly, a lot of people's worst nightmare.
Complete worst nightmare, and it's one of the reasons why I just think my heart goes out to these families. When their family member left for the night to go to work to fill potholes, they never thought that this was going to be the final result. They left working a job that they did not think had to be deadly. And so for these families who are, and also even for the survivors right now, for the gentleman that I spoke with, we know that the recovery, the mental recovery that's going to take place, this is going to be a long one, but we're going to be there for them.
You got a chance to speak with the families. Have you talked to them at all? What's their concern right now? What are they saying to you?
Well, they were talking about the fact that these are people who were husbands, and they were fathers, and they were brothers, and I prayed with them, I prayed for them, and they just wanted me to remember the humanity of the people who at that time we had a search and rescue mission for, and I told them I instructed every single asset that we had for both air, land, and sea to be able to support a search and rescue mission. And now that we've transitioned into a recovery mission, I have instructed every single asset that we have to go towards bringing a sense of closure to these families.
And speaking of assets, we heard yesterday, the president addressing the nation as well about providing federal resources to be able to rebuild the bridge, to be able to help here in Baltimore. To see that response on the national level, can you speak to us about what that means to you?
It's been very humbling watching the way everyone from the federal government to the private sector to philanthropy has been reaching out overwhelmingly to provide measures of support. And but I think they also understand the importance of the Port of Baltimore, not just to the state of Maryland, but to the entire country. We're talking over 51 million tons of foreign cargo goes to the Port of Baltimore. That's the largest in the country. New cars, heavy trucks, agricultural equipment. We're the largest port in the country for all of those assets. And so this is not just about the state of Maryland. This is about the farm worker in Kentucky. It's about the auto dealer in Michigan. The Port of Baltimore is that important to our national economy, and so it is imperative that we get it back up and going and we get this bridge rebuilt.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the bridge being rebuilt, I know that's something that kind of takes a backseat to what we're dealing with today with the recovery effort. But what does that look like from your perspective in the quick turnaround? What would you like to see for the state of Maryland in getting the Key Bridge back up? Yeah. If it will even be renamed that, if that's the case.
Yeah, well, and we have to make sure that we're coordinating all of our assets on it. I know I'm here on the ground, and I will continue to be here on the ground marshaling the resources. But in terms of the rebuild, we really have to make sure that we are coordinated. We have to make sure that we are communicating, and we have to make sure we get it complete. And that has got to be the focus on getting our economic engine going and also restoring a measurement of pride to Baltimore and to the state of Maryland, because this port is a huge point of pride that we have for our state.
Yeah. Just a few more questions for you, Governor. The state of Maryland here, are you all checking other bridges around the state? Because I know some other, states across the area and across the country have been doing that as well in wake of what happened yesterday. Is that something you guys are doing as well?
Yeah, and in fact, it's been something that's been happening throughout, is really looking at all the infrastructure that we have throughout the state of Maryland. And, we have to make sure we prioritize our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, both the safety, but also just the ease that we have here. So I think this is something that's been important for us before, but I think this catastrophic event is just it's a very unneeded reminder, not just to Maryland, but to the rest of the country, that protection of our infrastructure is imperative.
Any final message from you, Governor, to the Marylanders here?
I would say to Marylanders, I just ask two things. One, keep praying for these family members. They're having a nightmarish experience, and I think we have to keep that in mind. And the second thing is we are Maryland tough, and we are Baltimore strong, and we're going to be okay, but we're going to do it together.
All right. Governor, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us here on Fox 5.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.